Hello, I'm Seerath, and today I'm here to discuss that how can we build our own custom template. So, as we discussed in the previous video, that template helps us to create a user interface for the scripts, right? It makes it easy for the end user to interact, and it reduces the chances of errors, and it increases the security. Now, how can we create our own template? How can we edit it, build it, and use the template to create our own tag? And how can we share it with somebody else? So, we are going to see all of this today. So, first of all, let us go to the templates section. And here I have created a template for ad form. So let's click this. Our template editor opens in front of us. So the first few things that we see here is the info. So basically, what is the name? What is the brand name? What is the description? Description helps us to get an overview of the template, like what is the functionality inside it, right? So in the name section, we have written ad form tag. In the brand name, we have written ad form unofficial. And in the description, we have written, this is the template for ad form. Now we will see that this is our template review, and these will be the fields that we will discuss today. So we have fields here, we have code, and we have permissions. We will discuss all of this today. So first, this is an help article that is open in front of us from AdForm. So basically, we want to include the script from this URL, right? So we have copied this, and let's go to our tag manager. And inside that, first we have declared inject script, right? So what is inject script? To understand that, let us go to the documentation. Like we discussed about the custom APIs that Google Tag Manager offers us, right? So inject script is one of it. So this adds a script tag to the page to load the given URL, right? So it has a syntax that will first specify the URL, then we will specify the function for on success, then we will specify the function for on failure, then we will specify the cache token. So cache token is found only when it is a success, right? And if the cache token is found, then GTM will not try to reload the library. So let's go back to Google Tag Manager and see that how can we use inject script. So if we scroll down here, we have used inject script, and we have pasted the URL here, and we have specified data.gtm on success, which is for success, and we have specified data.gtm on failure. And in the cache, we have written ad form, right? So this is how we have used inject script. And if we go again now, we see this help documentation, and we see that an ADF track is being checked here. Like first of all, it is checked that whether it is an array or not. If it is an array, then the value is returned, or if it is not an array, then it is again checked that whether it exists or not. If something exists, then that value is passed as an array. And if it is empty or it does not exist, then a blank array is passed. So we have tried to do the same thing. So in the Google Tag Manager, first we have required 3 more custom APIs that are copy from window, which is basically used to access the global variable from the window object, right? Then we have used const call in window, which basically helps us to call the global items assuming that they are functions. Then we have set in window, which helps us to create new global variables. So we have acquired these three things using the require method here, right? And then as we want to use is array function, so for that we have created our own function, and we have used an arrow function for the same. So here we are saying that const is array, and we are passing the array as a parameter. Then we are using call in window. So we are calling toString.call, and we are converting it to string, and then we are passing the array as a method, right? So as a parameter. Then we are checking that if it is of type object and array. So we have defined is array, and then we have defined a constant ADF track, right? And then we are copying the value from the window. Like whatever value of ADF track is there in the window, we are copying it, and we are checking that is ADF track an array? And if it is an array, like if it is not an array, we are saying that if this is not an array, then we are telling that set a variable, set a global variable in window with the name ADF track. And before specifying the value, we are checking that is there any value in ADF track? So at this point, we are not saying that if it is an array or not, we are just saying that is there a value in ADF track? And if there is a value in ADF track, then we are passing it as an array, right? And if there is no value, then we are simply creating a blank array. And we have mentioned true here for overwriting. So we created an isArray function, which was an arrow function. Then we basically checked that ADF track array exists or not. So we have done this. Now, let's go to the fields and start adding fields to our template, right? So here, we can simply add fields using this add field button here. And we can select like if we want a text field. So like this is added, right? And we can change the name, and if we click it, then we can like add the display name. And if we click the settings, then we can enable the help tag text, and then we can enable validation rules, value hint, and all these things. We don't need this field, so we'll delete it. Now we have created a tracking point ID field. So if we expand this, so here we have a value hint. So basically, if we see in the preview, we are getting this hint, right? So we have enabled it from here that this should be the sample value. And in the display name that is visible to the user, we are mentioning tracking point ID. And inside the help text, which is basically the text that appears when we hover on this small question mark here. So we are saying that enter your add form tracking point ID. And we have also checked this always in summary option. Like even when this is not in edit mode, we want the tracking point ID field to be displayed. Then we have also applied a validation rule, which says that this value must be a positive integer. If we want, then we can apply more rules to it, like this value cannot be empty and all these things. Then, so this was the tracking point ID. And why are we creating this field? Because according to this, we want to pass the tracking point ID under the name PM in the object. Like this is the object which is being passed in the array. So we are replicating the same thing. So let's go back to Google Tag Manager, and inside the code section, we have created the function. Then we have our array set. Then we say that tracking point ID, and then we are accessing it from data. So whatever field we create here are available inside the data object. So that is why we are accessing it using data.tracking point ID. Now this tracking point ID will have the value from the user input. So now we are creating an object and we are saying PM tracking point ID, which is the same thing that we discussed here. Now we'll create some more fields. So next field that we have created here is of type checklist. And then we have specified the name as use divider. And if we click this, then we have the option to specify the tick box text, and we have specified use custom divider. If we go to the preview and see, this is what we are talking about, right? And in the help text, we have written that specify a custom divider and the default is the pipe symbol. Now we have also added a nested field inside it, which is a custom divider. So what is it saying? That this field of custom divider will only be available when the user divider equals true. What is meant by it? If we go here and we see that we have this option of use custom divider. So, but we are not seeing any field such as custom divider. And why is so? Because this is not true. If I check this, then I'll see this field and it is also showing me the same value hint. So this is a really great feature that is given to us by Google Tag Manager. So we have created a nested field here, and we have also created use page name, because here we have this divider and page name, right? So if we go back to Google Tag Manager, we have created this use divider and we have created this use page name. If we click this, so we have given the text as use custom page name, and the help text says that specify a custom page name and default is the current path. So if we click the preview mode and see that we have this option, and it also has a nested field which has a very similar behavior to as that of a custom divider. Like if we check this, only then it will be available, right? So this is a custom page name, and if we click this, we see that we are getting the value hints as clothes, shirts, and all these things. So this is how we have created these two fields here. And if we go back to code and see that how are we using them, so we are basically first checking that if data.customDivider, like if the value is defined, then obj.divider equals to encode URI component data.customDivider. So as here it was encoded, so we have also encoded it, and we have acquired this encode URI component, right? And we are doing the same thing for custom page, where we are saying that object.pagename, and which is equal to the encode URI component data.custom page name. So we have populated these values inside the object, right? And so we have also set some permissions, because we were using this ADF track and toString.call. We needed to set some permissions. We also needed to set the permission for accessing the script. So here inside the inject script, we have specified the URL, right? And in the access global variable section, we have specified ADF track, and we have defined read and write as true, because that is what we are doing with ADF track. And the toString.call, we have defined execute as true. So we define it according to our use case and according to the code that we are aiming for. So now let's go back to code. And we have discussed that how we extracted the value from the user for custom divider and custom page name. Now, if we come back to the fields, then here we have a variables group. Inside it, first of all, the group style is collapsible section open. We also have other options such as collapsible section collapsed and collapsible section open if not default, and a simple section. So we have selected this one here. Then the display name is variables. Then inside it, we have created two tables, right? Like if we click the add field here, then the option of simple table. This is what we have selected. And we have created two tables. First is a order variables table. So order variable table has a column name, variable name, and the internal value is name. Inside it, we have created a drop-down list where we have specified two values, order ID and currency. So the item name is order ID and the value is order ID, and the currency is the value. So then we have added another column which says value. So if we see it here in preview, it all will make more sense. Like here inside the variables, we have two columns, variable name and value. And if we click add row, we have two options to either select order ID or to select the currency. So if we select order ID, we have the option to either hard code the value, right? Or we can simply just access any variable that we have created. Like let's say I put the order ID as A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, and I add another row and I say currency and I say INR. So basically, this is what we have done here. We have created order variables and inside it, we created two columns, variable name and value. And for the variable name, we created a drop-down list, right? So this was the order variable. We have also created another table for custom variables. And here we have again used the same column name, but this time instead of specifying the value, it is more user defined, right? So we are saying internal name and the value, and it's a text field, right? So if I click here and I say show advanced settings, then we have given the value hint as SV1 or var5. And we have also applied a validation rule. Now, what is this rule doing? This rule is specifying that this value must match a regular expression. And we have written this regex here. So if we go, and we have also specified an error message, like it was somewhere here. Yeah, so this was the error message that we specified. So if we go to the preview mode and we click add row, and here, so basically we have restricted the value to SV96, right? So if we try to write SV97 and custom value, so this will give us error if we run the code, invalid input, right? And it is also showing us the custom variable is not valid. But if we change it, like if we write something that is more acceptable, according to the regex that we have specified here, then it will run completely. So let's specify another thing. We have also added the regex for a var. So let's say var 6, another custom value. So we have specified both of them. And now if we will run the code, this will be executed. Now, if we go to the code section here, this was what we have created in the field section. Like we created a new field, and for that we created two tables, right? And for each table, we created columns and we specified their values. We introduced settings, validations, and matching regex. But how are we including it inside the code? So if we go back to code here, we first of all, we can see that what is order variable and what does custom variable looks like. So if I uncomment this log here, and if I run the code again, yeah, so we are able to see the values that we inputted here, right? So this was the value for order variables, which is in a form of an array having two objects. First with order ID value ABC123 another with currency and value INR, and another array is also there for custom variables, and this one is saying the name as SV12, the value as custom value, and another element of an array is saying the name as var6 and the value as another custom value. So we have done this much up until now. Now for sending it to add form, we want this to be concatenated as a single object, right? So first of all, what we are doing is that inside the variable array, we are checking that if data.order variables exist, and if it does, then we are simply pushing the custom variables into the order variables, right? We are concatenating both of them, both the arrays. And if it does not, then we are simply passing custom variables. So this is what we are doing here. And we have created a final object. And inside it, we are saying that variable array, if this is true, then we are using make table map. So this is a custom API that we have required here. We have also required law here because we wanted to see these statements, right? So we have required make table map. And inside here, if we go, then we'll be able to see make table map. Yeah. So we can study about this, that how can this work? So we can specify the value, key and value, and it will help us to map it into an object. So if we go back to Google Tag Manager, here we have specified make table map. We have given this concatenated array that we created from combining both the arrays. Then we have specified the name, which we want to be taken as parameter. We want order ID to be taken as parameter. And then we have specified value. So this should be the value, right? And then we have written obj.order and we have given the final object. And then we are calling in window and we are using ADF track.push. As we are using that, then we have to add permission for it. So that's why in the access global variables, we have defined a execute true for it. So let's go back to code now. And we are passing the object here. So now let's just inspect in the network and see that whether this request is working or not. Like, is it giving the same result that we intended to? So first of all, let's select network and let's run the code again so that we can see the network requests that are happening. Just a second. We have not added these. Say hash and we say floats, hash shorts, hash large, and then we run the code. Yeah, so this is available to us. And if we check here, so this is giving us all the information, and inside the payload, if we see, then we have the PM that we entered here. Then we have the page name, divider, we have this item. So this is encoded. If we copy this and go to this website of base64 decode, just paste the string here and decode it. So we'll be able to see our information, right? What we inputted right here, ID ABC3, INR, var6, and all the other things, right? So our request is working. Now we have discussed everything. We have discussed the information. We have discussed all the fields that we have created and how can we create a field. We have discussed the code, and inside here, we have used various custom APIs. And in the permissions, we discussed that we need to define the permission for access to a global variable, right? Now, all these things are done. We simply need to use the template that we have created. So now let's go to the overview section, and inside the overview, let's go to the tag section and create a tag with the template that we just created. So I have already created a tag here, and under the tag type, we have the template that we created. Like if I click here and select, so it will be available to the list, like in the list. So we select this, then we see this is the same preview that we saw while creating the template. So the preview while creating the template really helps us to see that how will the user perceive our template, right? Now I have entered all these values: order ID ABC123, currency INR, SV12 custom value, and var6 another custom value. And the trigger I have selected here, DOM ready. I have given the name as add form init. So now let's go to the preview mode and test whether this is working or not. So if we go back to the tag assistant and we click continue here inside DOM ready. Yeah, so our tag was fired. So we are seeing this only when it is fired. If it was not fired, we must have seen some failed message also. And we are seeing all the information like tracking point ID and supported variable, custom divider, and all these things, right? So this is how we can create a custom template on our own, and we have also used it to create a tag. Now, one more thing that we should discuss, that how can we export it or share it with somebody, right? So that is very simple. If we go to the template, then we have the option to export. So if we click the export, a file will be downloaded. Then if somebody wants to use it, then they can simply create a new template and then click the option for import and select the downloaded file, right? So this is how we can create our own custom template and use it to create a tag. Thank you.